Wildcard.
How are you?
I am doing well, man. How about yourself?
I'm all right. Can't complain.
Yeah,
Can
you
complain.
can. That's right. Well, it's the last show, so you got to be happy about that.
There are silver linings.
That's right. You don't have to put up with us anymore.
Oh man.
Yeah. Um, yeah, but I'm just happy that you are doing what you love to doing, and you're out there, you're making music, and you're having fun. You know, um,
Well, I don't know
you
about the
know,
having fun part.
come on, you're putting out new songs, man. That's fun.
It's there's all that stuff. There's all that other stuff though that's not real fun. Like the mundane processes of, getting your music on, the digital platforms and such. Like it's a
Yeah.
rigmarole. Like I spent, for example, was it Friday? I spent an hour trying to upload a song to CD Baby. And
Wow.
why? Because the website just wasn't having it. Took me, I think, 5 or 6 different tries. And we had already tried it the night before. I realized that the bit rate was wrong in these two particular songs. And
Oh man.
so I had to convert them. Not a big deal. You can do it with iTunes. It's that's actually CD Baby's like, just do it in iTunes. Okay. So I get them, I convert them. One upload's fine. The second one, though, not having it. And there's nothing the tracks up to their standards. And so I just got the deal. I just have to sit there and keep trying until I'm thoroughly frustrated, have wasted half my day. And, so that's that's what it's like. It's not all peaches and cream.
Right.
But it did finally upload because
Well, that's good.
they're running a good deal right now on getting your stuff out there. So I use them because they're just easy to use.
Sure.
Been trying to find this thing on my computer for the last couple of days, and I'm starting to think that maybe it was never really a thing, or I got Mandelaed. I'm sure you're
Okay.
familiar with the Mandela effect. So
Yeah, where you think something is the way it is when it's really not.
yeah, happens to me a lot, that kind of stuff where I'm like, no, I'm pretty sure it was this way, like for my whole life, but now it's not. And it apparently never was. So I'm trying to find this track. I don't know where the hell it is.
You sure you wrote it? Is that what you're
Yeah.
wondering? Like, did I even write this? Was it a dream?
Yeah, was it a dream? Right.
Mm-hmm. Wouldn't that be awesome if it was?
A,
You're
a
just gonna wake
dream?
up. You're gonna wake up tomorrow and you realize I'm not quitting heavy metal horror. I want to be here with these guys. I love this job. No, man, it's. I hope you do find it. It's a weird feeling because if you lost something like that, it's like, no, I get
Yeah,
it, man.
it wasn't really like super important, but now I'm like, well, fuck.
Right now, it's
Was it
gonna.
really? Was it? It's bothering me.
You're gonna obsess about it until you
Yes.
find out the answer one way or another.
I just don't know where the fuck it is. Unless it's on it might be on a like a hard disk that's somewhere else.
Hmm.
But I was positive it was on here. I think I've got most of my music stuff on here. It was a song, and I was like, "Ah, this would be a cool song to submit to a band I know. Like they
Hmm.
might want it, and that would be cool to have, like, contributed." And I can't fucking find the thing. I found it like in the last year, I swear, because I'm pretty sure I messaged the guy and was like, "Hey, I wrote this song," and then I lost it again. Now I don't know where the hell it is, what it's under. So many different files.
Yeah.
Computers are a nightmare.
You start needing to buy external hard drives for redundancy and
Right.
start storing stuff. I have one, two, three, four, five, I think 10 external drives,
Right.
varying in size from 500 megabytes to 12 terabytes. Um, and that's I just have redundancies and redundancies, But it's then
Right.
it's like, okay, where the fuck did I put this stuff?
Yeah.
Right. So
Right.
I got like one drive. I call it like I got one or two things that are like my mega drive where I just like this
Right.
is a backup of everything. And so
Right.
if I need to find it, I know it's on one of these giant drives. Yeah.
Yep. That's I've been trying to do that stuff. I actually have 2 drives in this computer, and one of them is like a terabyte or 2 terabytes or something.
Hmm.
And it's, it's an old HDD, and I don't back the computer up to it like I'm supposed to.
Sure.
It's like mostly free.
Yeah.
And my operating system is on a solid state drive, so it's real fast, but it's only like
Yeah.
256
Right.
gigs or
And that's
something.
all. It's all you need for an OS.
And it's like, but I save stuff to it like an idiot. Like I'm
Oh,
not saving
yes.
it to the other, and
Right.
it's starting to get a
Yeah.
little
You
full
got
and
to get it
bogged
off of
down.
there.
Yep.
Well, my computer is a custom built. A friend of mine built it for me, and it's got slots for 6 hard drives in it.
Yeah.
So, and I've got like 3 drives in there. One went wonky, so I can put 3 more in there. And
Right.
then I have like 10 external drives, you know. So that's like, it becomes
Yeah.
and I just went on eBay or Amazon, and I don't know how valid this is, but I just got 100 terabyte thumb drives for like $30. So we'll see if any.
Wow.
I know it's like
That sounds almost too good to be true.
exactly. That's why I'm like I'm gonna check them. If they're not all terabytes, then I'm sending them right back. But
Right.
I'm like, come on. If that's the case, if that's just really real, like real terabyte, then fuck. But I'm not gonna like use that and put important stuff on. It'll be stuff like, hey, I want to read some comic books. I'm gonna load a bunch of comic books on here to like
Right.
take with me. And if it like completely like fucks up and doesn't like read anything, then I've got 99 more to try. You know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
No, it was 20. I'm sorry, it's 20 drives for like $35, but still.
Yeah, that's still a really good deal.
I
For
know.
for a
Like
terabyte. Yeah.
yeah, I'm like, I'm not really sure this is real. So I'm
What
just
was the
gonna
company? What was the company name?
I don't know.
You wouldn't know if you were reading it right in front of you.
Yeah, yeah. I just ordered it like now. It's gonna be here tomorrow. No, it's not like one of the ones that I normally have, like SanDisk and the other more reputable ones.
Right.
Because you can get a terabyte drive, but they're like about $140, and that's why I thought, we'll see. We'll
Right.
see how real this is. But with a 30-day money back guarantee, so you can send it back. Like I got nothing to lose really.
Right.
So we'll see.
Yeah, that would be cool if that works out though.
Yeah,
I mean,
if they are all
damn.
legit terabyte drives, swing by sometime. I'll give you a couple.
Right. Right.
Here's a backup. But I would really would not want you to like back up important stuff as like this is your
Yeah,
only means.
exactly. Exactly.
If you're gonna do that, I would just buy a Western Digital or plug and play one of those
Right. I
HD
think I
drives.
have I have one in I think it's a 2 terabyte, and I think it's like a Seagate or something.
Yeah, and yeah,
It-
those are great.
It's gonna work well enough.
Yeah, I mean, and they're big, and they're desktop. That's why I've got it on my desk right now. Actually, I had to put you can't see it now. I can move the camera. See, this is my
Okay, yeah.
Mega Drive. So this is like just as one that's just for comic books. So
There you go.
yeah, because I gotta have a place for my comic books. And then I have drives just for Marvel and drives just for DC, drives for others. But this one has everything in one
Right.
spot. Well,
Yeah.
so it's a nice way to do that.
Yeah, it's good good collection.
Yeah,
The master tome.
yeah. I just love going to the free store and getting comic books.
Right.
Yeah, there's a couple sites online where you can just read them for free if you want, if you don't want to download them and stuff like that. But I used to have a
Right.
pretty mammoth collection. I used to have about probably 8 or 9,000 books at one time,
Wow.
like 30 long boxes.
Right.
And then I just ended up selling a bunch because I had read them and they were just getting out of hand. And then once I got into the digital stuff, like realized I accidentally came across like through torrents, like, oh, wait a minute. Amazing Spider-Man 1 to 440. That sounds like it's the comic book. Like,
Right,
I
yeah.
found it was, and it's just a simple reader you can get for free, like C display. I'm like, oh my God, what else is out there? And then that just changed the game. And like maybe the last, I don't know, 3,000 comic books I just donated to the nonprofit I was in at the time, the Lyria
Yeah.
Comic Book Initiative. We promoted literacy and creativity by teaching kids how to make their own comic books.
Yeah.
And part of our mission was to get comic books in the kids' hands. So we would go into schools and just give away comic books. And so that's where my 3,000 of my books went.
Right.
Kids were just like taking them, which was cool. They, have these other kids, loving these books. I had read them all. So I'm like, and I have them all digitally now. So it's like,
Yeah.
I in the size of a small book, I've got, 100,000 comic books, so
Right.
I'm like, I'm okay. I'm good. I'm all right.
Right.
Yeah.
No, it's definitely saves you on the clutter. I'm not like a super avid comic guy. I tend to, Jim Starlin stuff and
Yeah. I know you like your Avengers, your Infinity
yeah,
War.
the cosmic. I'm really big into Thanos and like the Infinity storyline
Hmm. Hmm.
is that's where I'm at. But there's other ones I haphazardly got into. Ollie's used to have like they used to have a really good graphic novel section, and you're getting them at like a quarter of the price. You walk in there and buy a book for that's like labeled $25 and it's only $7. So I got into a bunch of them through that, but it's like I'm already out of space,
Yeah.
with I as a kid I didn't have a huge collection, but I still have a bunch of those books and those
Hmm.
mags rather and but I like the trade paperbacks and the omnis because they fit on they sit on a shelf,
Yeah. And if you're
that's
if you're the casual reader who just you like certain stories, those are fantastic buys too, because
right,
you're going to go back to it and probably reread it.
right,
And since I'm not like collecting anymore, it doesn't, there's no point in having physical comic books,
right,
and it's just the space and moving them. But then, it just becomes, I do miss that, the idea of like hunting out comic books,
right.
but some of the sites I go on to are just about comic books, and I'm still finding things that I hadn't seen before. A lot of Golden Age and Silver Age stuff that from other publishers,
Yeah,
and just these collections and the passion that fans have. Like, someone put together, like, here's every chronological appearance of Green Lantern from the Golden Age into like the 1986 or something. It's
right,
like, or a 20-year run of Superman, and all the Superman titles and all the secondary and tertiary titles that he appeared in. So you have all the story arcs.
right.
That just takes passion, and I
Yeah,
I benefit from that passion. It's like, yeah, now I got 20 years of Superman. If I just want to sit down and read Superman,
right,
I just go to town.
right, right, right.
Yeah. So that's how I hunt. I get that hunting, like, I download what's week, what's the new stuff, but then I like look for things like, what if I turn in this search term? What do I get?
Right.
So, because,
Now that's cool.
yeah, and anymore now, because a lot of these, like, Marvel and DC are both doing these like big story arcs that are
Hmm.
comprising 6 months a year in multiple titles. Uh, or they had those big runs, like DC had the New 52, and then they had
Hmm.
something else. People compile those, like New
Right.
52 only ran it like a couple years. Um, and so people compiled those, like, here's the New 52 in the reading order, like, so you get all the stories. I'm like,
Right. Yeah.
okay, yeah, because I would never have done that, or not. I would never have had the
Right.
money to buy those books,
Right.
because comics
That's
are
yeah.
expensive.
They are, especially like if you buy omnis. I've been fortunate to, find some decent prices on them, but like new, I'm not buying. I might buy the Miracle Man Omni new because
Yeah.
it's literally like the same. I only want they made the graphic books. They broke them into like 3 volumes,
Mhm.
and the third volume is out of print and it's $100. Well, I'll just
Oh,
buy all of them and everything in between that I don't have because there's
yeah.
other Miracle Man books that aren't part of that storyline
Hmm.
in the Omni for $90. Well, then I'm just going to do that because I do, if I like the storyline, I'll buy the book.
Sure. Right.
Um,
Is this the new Miracle Man? Or are we talking about the Miracle Man that was around in the late 60s, early 70s?
so I think that I think what
Is
happened was Marvel. It wasn't like it wasn't Marvel US. It was another. It was like a off. It was Marvel, but it was not based out of the US. I think is what the way I interpreted it. Not the six. So they include like stories from the 60s and 70s. They'll talk about like young Marvel Man and whatever and all these
okay.
characters that exist in that world. But like I think this was like a 70s or an 80s run, and it's like it's actually kind of like uh
Because,
what's the word I'm looking for? Graphic for a Marvel book.
yeah, well, it
Like
started off with DC. Miracle Man was a comic book because Jack Kirby did the artwork.
okay,
And
so it's
then
yeah, it,
and then
it
so that's how it started. Then I went to like Malibu Comics. I think it took it over because the character went defunct, and I think Malibu or Dynamite picked up, and that's when Alan Moore started writing it. The same guy
okay,
who did Watchmen.
yeah, right,
He started writing Miracle Man, And then he and a couple of the writers got together and found some books that were back from the 1940s called America's Best Comics with like Tom Strong and all these other 40s and 50s books that these
Yeah.
characters had were just in public domain, just languishing. And then they started kind of revising them and kind of bringing them back into a modern sensibilities.
Yeah.
So I think Miracle Man now has been got back into
Yeah.
the
It's,
lexicon,
yeah. It's certainly not a, what's the word I'm looking for? Shit. I'm fuzzy today.
Sorry, man.
It was a long night last night. Shit. I don't know. Fuck. I don't know. I don't know where I was going with that one.
It's
Completely derailed. But
about Miracle Man not being part of the continuity. Is that what you were thinking?
yeah, it's okay. It's not a modern book. Like it's not, but I think it's from like the 70s or the 80s.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's like way like
Oh, he's a great
grittier than the
character.
original run. Yeah, like it's
Yes.
the storyline's fantastic so
Yeah.
far. I'm really drawn into it. And it's like I
Yeah.
said, I want to get that third book so I know what happens. And then it's like, well, you can't get it for, $100, or you can just buy all of them and everything in between for 90.
Sure.
And it's like, all right, I'll do that. I'm thinking about doing the same thing with the Onslaught storyline, because right now I've got book one, volume 1 and 2, and volumes 1 and 2 don't have. I don't know that I necessarily need a couple additional issues here and there, but whatever. I can get the Omni for $75, or I can shell
Yeah.
out another like 35 for volume 3. And it's like, well, I could, just pay the 75 and get rid of the 2 books that I have and save space and all that stuff.
Sure.
But that's what's cool about the Infinity storyline, is that when the movie dropped, they started printing the trade paperback Infinity Gauntlet with the full continuity, where you start and where you end. So I took a picture of that because I ended up getting, the Infinity Gauntlet Omni, and I gave the trade paperback to my dad. But I took a picture of it so that I could keep track of the books that I needed and where to go after I read them. So I've read what they've dubbed the Thanos Wars, which is kind of when Thanos first appears on the scene, all the stuff involving him. Captain Marvel storylines in there. So
Yep.
Death of Captain Marvel's in there. Basically, it was just a Jim Starlin's Cosmic, because the whole Jim Starlin Warlock runs in there.
Right.
But Thanos pops up quite a bit.
Yeah, he brought that whole cosmic spectacle to Marvel in a way that hadn't been done. I mean, Fantastic Four did that because that's where you first see the Kree and the Skrull are in Fantastic Four. Really early on, you see the Super Skrulls.
Right.
So there was a sense like we know these aliens are out there, but Starlin kind of brings in this big spectacle.
Right. I was reading that he loosely touched on who was over at DC at the time, did some kind of cosmic thing that I guess nobody liked, but it was like the dude's best work. It's one of the classics. It's one of the greats. The dude wrote for Marvel and then ended up going over to DC and did, I guess he was like the first one to really do like the cosmic stuff, but it didn't catch over there. Like nobody really gave a shit about it. So can't remember who they said it was, but they, of course, because Darkseid is essentially Thanos. And he said, like, and what's awesome is like, I found, it's called Cosmic Odyssey, written by Jim Starlin.
Oh yeah.
DC.
I have it.
I was like, absolutely have to get this, because even though I'm not a DC guy, just there's some Batman runs I like, and I just never got into DC. And so, seeing Starlin's name associated with it, though, I'll buy anything Starlin writes, because that dude is fan-fucking-tastic.
Yeah.
In like the early 2000s, he did this Thanos story run. And, oh, dude, those books are fan-fucking-tastic. Like, they're so well written. You're reading them, you're going, what the fuck's going on with the continuity of this book? Because, like, the first one, you're like, what's going on with the continuity of this book? Because, dude, there's like different uniforms and stuff. It's all like subtle shit, but like Warlock and Thanos are hanging out. 1 minute Warlock's got the lightning bolt, and 1 minute he's got just the red shirt, and you're like it would be page to page, like you were actually reading back in the day when they had different writers would come in and change shit, like from comic before they like really locked down continuity. But it was part of the storyline, because there were two, because Thanos is always walking around in different realms and shit, and there were 2 sets of Adam Warlocks and Thanos, and
because they had all the different universes.
Yeah, it's such a good story, man.
Yeah, when you latch onto that, you're like, oh, okay, I see what's going on.
And he's a fantastic artist too. I love how he draws space. There's just all kinds of stuff going on. I love it. he's I really stuck with that. I struggle with like Golden and like was it, I don't know, the real old stuff like Golden, Bronze, all the metals, the precious metal years. It's like there's stuff in the
Oh well,
70s I'm good with, but
we
I
can go
can't
back to
remember.
there's the golden age starts with basically with Action Comics one, so first appearance of Superman, and that
Yeah,
runs from like 1938 to 1956. And then when DC kind of reinvigorates their golden age heroes like Flash, the first appearance of the new Flash, we gone from
yeah,
Jay Garrick, who looks like the FTD guy, looks like Mercury, to the new streamlined red suit Flash. That's
yeah,
Barry Allen. That kind of started what was called the Silver Age. And
yeah,
so the Green Lantern was reinvented, Hawkman was reinvented, and by this time in the Silver Age, that's when Superman's origins really get solidified because,
right,
when you read the Golden Age stuff, he's a different character in 1938 than he is in 1958. So, yeah, and then that Silver Age runs to like early 1970s where it turns into the Bronze Age. And that's where you see DC finally starting to realize we got to get away from the camp and the silliness. We got to
yeah,
start making continuity important and having an ongoing storylines. Because before that, DC, it didn't fucking matter from one book to another.
right,
And then Bronze Age ran till about 1986, which is considered the modern age. And that's when we see like Crisis on Infinite Earths,
right,
Watchmen, Dark Knight Returns. These were seminal books that kind of marked a new period of comic books.
right.
So, but
Yeah, I
um,
definitely like,
yeah,
like late 70s Marvel,
yes, that's my
and
favorite era.
80s. And the drawings were good. It gets like I said, I'm into this Onslaught storyline. My buddy said, you got to read these books because this is it. This is what changes Marvel's entire universe. This instant in the whole line. And I was like, well, I got to know about this.
Hmm.
And dude, some of the fucking drawings, like they just, I'm glad they hit the reset button with that event
Hmm.
because there was a lot of weird stuff. Like, I'm not a big fan of like troglodyte Wolverine,
Okay.
where he's like hideous and he's got like giant toenails. And you're like, what the fuck did you do to Wolverine, man? He was super handsome and you took away
Yeah,
his adamantium and now he's just dumb looking. And
that's all stuff I am not aware of. So
yeah,
yeah.
there was an event in Marvel's timeline where the timeline's gone,
Mm,
and it was a reset button for, from what I gather, I'm not entirely sure, but
yeah.
it was like kind of a reset button for storylines after a certain point. Because my buddy said I started noticing things that were real inconsistent, and he said I couldn't figure out why that had happened, and he said I tracked it back to this Onslaught event. This
Okay.
Onslaught event, it's an Avengers X-Men book, like uh storyline, and apparently that's what changes everything at Marvel, is that
Okay.
particular thing. But you got to deal with a lot of like the mid 90s, like post Rob Liefeld shit, where everybody was like
Yeah.
super giant
Jacked
and
up and
yeah,
scratchy, all the hash marks and the
yeah, it's just
pointy
like
features. Yeah.
yeah, it was like, man, like you guys used to draw this shit really good. And that's the thing with modern books. Some of the modern books are really nice. I know they're utilizing, again, it's gotten away from, it's all, a lot of it's digital now and shit. But
Right.
some of them are still drawn really poorly. And it's like, why the fuck are you letting people like draw like this? Like, oh, it's cutting edge. I have a Doctor Strange, a modern Doctor Strange book. The story's great, but like the drawings are like, this is kind of bad.
They
I
do
mean,
that sometimes on lesser titles, but I've seen them like do flagship titles like Spider-Man or like Superman, where Superman looks like a fucking dick. I'm like, why
right.
why would you drawing? I mean, Superman has a look. To me, the Superman of the 70s, that era, that defines the Superman for me. That's what he's supposed to look like.
Right.
Um, I'm cool with that. That's Superman. But yeah, I don't
Well,
get
just
it,
enough of this exaggerate. I get they're superheroes. They should be ripped like motherfuckers. But I mean, like people in the 70s and 80s tried to make them look like people. And nowadays it's
Yeah.
just like, how zany can we draw this comic? And it's
It
like,
it could be, and I'm see,
I don't know,
I'm
man.
aware of what's going on only superficially. I mean, I still download everything, but I'm kind of cognizant of big events. But when
Yeah.
I started reading, since I had everything, I started reading from the beginning,
Yeah.
and I'm like in 1973. It's kind of started like a month of Marvel, month of DC, month of Marvel, back and forth, all the
Yeah.
way into now I'm in the 70s, and so this is like the Bronze Age. This is like my sweet spot because when I first started
Right.
getting into comic books. Um, so no, I get it. There's just a lot of change. both Marvel and DC have just reset.
Right.
You
And I
know,
mean, like, I get it. Nowadays, it's just, I feel like it's kind of rough nowadays. They aren't, the only thing they're changing is like sexual preferences and characters, and that's it. That's apparently that's the only thing they can think of now.
yeah, but
It's sad to see. There's just, I don't know. Is
it's cheap. It's not earned because, and I was talking with a friend of mine, who he's a comic book fan, he's gay, and he hates
Yeah,
the fact that you suddenly, like DC he's guilty of this, both of like taking a character, they took the Golden Age Green Lantern, um, and all of a sudden made him gay. Like,
right.
because
Like, don't get me wrong.
I have no
Representation
problem
is
with
great,
creating a gay character. Look, you want to make a character gay,
but
like
yeah, but don't.
Midnighter from Wildstorm comics. I think it's
Right.
Midnighter's like Batman. He's got no powers. He's just a fucking badass, and he's
Yeah.
gay. I'm like, I don't care. I don't give a fuck.
Right.
You know, our
Right.
sexuality is only a little tiny part of who we are.
Right.
But to take a character who's had 75 years of history,
Right.
you
And that's the only
and
thing they can
then
do.
yeah, and then make him gay all of a sudden because you think it's going to be hip or trendy, like that. No, that kind of stuff pisses me off as a longtime fan, and it also pisses
Right.
off a lot of the my friends who are gay, who are comic book fans, because they know
Right.
this is cheap, it's
Right.
salacious, it's not
Right.
earned. If you want to create a good gay character, then create a new character who
Create a
happens
new
to be
character.
gay.
Right.
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 you know um I mean, Marvel's always been different than DC in several basic hallmarks. The one, they had a continuity from the very beginning. If you read those Golden Age Marvel books,
Right.
when you have Human Torch fighting Namor, the Submariner, fire and water, there was an ongoing continuity because they were fighting over a woman, but there's an ongoing
Right.
continuity that they developed early on, and it stayed with
Yeah.
these characters. Um, Whereas DC just, it didn't have that. And also when Stan Lee took over the helm in the 19, well, he was writing since he was in the 40s when he was a kid.
Right.
Or so, but when he took over in 61 or 60 or whenever, when he started launched Fantastic Four, he kind of changed the paradigm of what comic books could be, because DC focuses on the powers, not the people. We know
Right.
Bruce Wayne's backstory, and but it's just, it's so superficial. Whereas Marvel comic book characters, they're like real people.
Right. They had problems.
Yeah, they have problems,
had,
and
yeah,
Fantastic Four fights, and Peter Parker's just a teenage kid. That's why I love Spider-Man as a kid, because I
right.
can relate to him. He's just a
Yeah.
kid
Tony
who
Stark
wants
was
to,
an alcoholic. I mean,
yeah,
these are
right.
real life things.
Exactly. And they weren't like hamming it up. Like, they were really trying to do social issues. That's why they had, I mean, my God, you have they brought in Black Panther as a great superhero. And
Right.
also Sam Wilson, as Falcon in the 70s. I mean, that's when I started reading Captain America. It was Captain America and Falcon.
Falcon. Yeah.
And that was the first time I had read, really, between him and Black Panther, although I didn't get all the political stuff as a kid,
Right.
obviously.
Right.
But I knew that his storylines, Sam Wilson's storylines, were dealing with things that were far different from me growing up in Little Vermilion. I
Right.
had no connection to the inner city, to the ghetto, to people's problems. I just had, I was like 7 fucking years old. I mean, have no concept
Right.
of that. But they were really trying to push a social agenda and social change and talk about real problems.
Right.
And that's what makes their characters identifiable. But DC didn't really do that. Um, they just didn't have that, and
Right.
that was just a huge difference.
That's what I mean. I don't know. I like the continuity. Ian, and I like how they explained continuity. If there was a continuity issue, like they've resolved all of that, and it was like, this is amazing.
Mhm.
I love them. I don't know. I mean, like I said, I know there's DC titles. I really like the Arkham, where he gets locked
Mhm.
up in the insane asylum. Batman, like they frame him for a crime just so they can see
Mhm.
what's going on in the asylum. I love
Sure.
that, man. That
Yeah.
was a great line. That was a great storyline. The death of Superman's a great story arc.
Mhm.
I think
It gets
that was
kind of
fantastic.
weird afterward, like when all the different Supermen show up, and then you got the red
Yeah.
and the blue. Like, they were like figuring out what the hell we do with this character.
Right. And then
Yeah.
ultimately they just brought him back from the dead. Like, what? It was like 2 or 3 years later.
Yeah.
It
It's
was
like,
such a
okay,
letdown. It was like, oh man, they killed Superman. Nah,
here
I'm
we
just gonna
go.
bring him back a few years
Yeah.
later.
And the Batman storyline, where he gets his back broken by Bane, which I think, the
Yeah.
way they write Bane, he's such a pussy. I probably shouldn't say that. I'll have to cut that one out. He's
Yeah,
such
he's
a
gonna come
horrible,
after you.
Yeah, well, yeah. Well,
He's gonna break your back now.
exactly. Well, he's such a horrible character because he's all about, breaking people down, but he waits until you're already like broken down, like from exhaustion, and then he like does something to you. Like if that's no satisfaction, you wait till someone else beats somebody up and then you kick him in the last kick, like, oh look, I kicked you dead. Like, no, no, no. Satisfaction comes from you beating down the strong character.
Right,
That's where the satisfaction comes from.
right.
And I thought, well, that's a horrible character. But I liked when they brought Azrael in. I kind of, it was an interesting
Dude,
character.
that's a great storyline. So
Yeah,
I found that
yeah.
book, that run,
Okay.
um, at Ollie's, and I was like, shit, this is cool as fuck.
Yeah.
Just the artwork. I was like, this character is fucking awesome. I don't
Yeah.
know what this DC comics about. I'm gonna grab it. What a cool storyline, but it doesn't seem like they resolved it.
Well,
They
Batman
did.
gets better,
Yeah,
and
I was reading
Azrael
about
kind
it.
of kicks out, and he kind
Yeah,
of gets his own line. And there's this tension between Batman and Azrael because Azrael just takes it too far. But
right.
I honestly think it was the writers paying attention to what readers have been complaining about for a long time. Like, you have Batman who won't kill anybody. Okay.
Right.
And like even
Except for the
Joker,
killing joke.
even like
Maybe,
Joker.
maybe he
Yeah.
did it in the killing joke.
Well,
Maybe he
at the
didn't.
end, they're just laughing. So I don't know.
But
But
then the laughing stops.
I don't
Did he
know.
snap his neck? Huh? Yeah, you don't
I'll have to go
know.
back and reread it. Um, but you have also, but of necessity, you cannot kill off great villains. You're not going to have Bill Finger
Right,
coming around and like making. You're not going to have Bill Finger at your side creating Joker. These,
right.
Joker's a great character. He kind of defines Batman in a way. They're two sides of the coin,
Yeah.
and you can't kill him off. Now, I don't know if you've ever read Kingdom Come. Have you ever read that?
Mm-mm,
Oh,
mm-mm.
okay. You gotta read Kingdom Come. It's 4 episode. I'll send it to you. I'll just put it in a Dropbox and send you a link. I'm having my class read it actually.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm doing my class, one of my classes on popular culture. This is about heroes. Yeah, Kingdom Come is a DC Elseworlds book. You know how Marvel has their traditional continuity, then they have like their Ultimates series, which is
Earth, whatever,
well,
and
it's a
yeah,
parallel. Ultimate's universe is like a parallel universe where the story is the characters are there, but their stories are slightly changed. Like Tony Stark has an inoperable brain tumor, kind of,
yeah.
it's not the shrapnel in his heart. And everyone's just a little, Thor might be crazy. He might be a god, but he might just have great technology and he's insane. We don't
Right,
know. So what DC did, and it goes off of Marvel used to have this comic book called What If back in the
right.
70s.
I've
Just
got several of those. Yeah,
just hypothesizing what if Conan showed up in the 21st century,
yeah.
right, and Spider-Man's got to try and take him down or something. So DC has this whole series called Elseworlds where they transplant these characters and they give them like new storylines or put them elsewhere.
Yeah.
So there's a great one. Batman has a ton of them. Superman has a ton of them. So like Batman has Gotham by Gaslight. So it's Gotham in the 1880s, and Jack the Ripper is in Gotham, and Batman's
Nice.
like the 19th century Batman has to track him down using his detective skills and
Right.
confront Jack the Ripper. Superman has one called Red Sun, SON,
Okay.
where he doesn't land in Kansas. The ship lands in Soviet Russia. So he grows up being not America's superhero, but Russia's,
Love it.
red man. Yeah, exactly. And so you would love those Elseworld titles. Those are
Yeah, that
awesome.
actually sounds really interesting.
Yeah, those are very, very cool. It's like I seriously, I can put all this shit onto a drive and and just if you want to just swing by sometime, I'll be happy to just give it to you. But anyway, those books are good. I mean, DC, they both have big spectacles like the Crisis on Infinite Earths. That whole crisis thing that they've been doing ever since the 1950s when Flash first like went back into Golden Age Flash. I don't that was the Silver Age Flash. Barry Allen goes back to meet Jay Garrick. Like he runs so fast, he breaks the time barrier, goes back in time, and you're like, what the fuck? Who are you? Like, oh, you're the Flash from this other city from a different time. And they realize,
Yeah.
oh, okay. DC says, well, we have multiple universes. In this reality, that's the first time you get the hint of a multiverse. And
Right. Right.
because they did that, because they have all these great characters from the Golden Age that they didn't always use, like Captain Midnight and all these other characters that they were using in the 1940s and 50s, but they weren't, they had kind of stopped being used. So you have to use these characters or else they go into public domain.
Right.
So they kept on like bringing them up time to time, and they realized this is how we can explain it. And this also explains continuity problems between the Superman from 1950s, who's out making pancakes for Jimmy Olsen's church group or whatever, because that's what he does in that issue. He makes a billion pancakes. This is a real story, by the way, where Batman has like a time machine and goes back to be a medieval knight. The Silver Age. It's really kooky. And they're like, oh, well, then this is how we can explain this Superman. And then the Golden Age Superman, who really couldn't fly, he didn't have these powers. That explains this one. So now they have all these different Earths
Yeah.
where these things happen. And then they realize, okay, we have all this conflicting stories, but we're trying to make sense where it all filters in. But then they realize, oh, fuck, we got like 6 different Supermans. What the fuck are we going to do? And that's when in 1886, they had this crisis on Infinite Earths where they decided, let's just kill everybody off except for one version of each. And and they're like, okay, let's do that. And which was a very powerful story. I mean, I loved reading that. It was heartbreaking. But the problem exists. You still have all these other characters from your previous books that you're not actively publishing. If you don't do something with them, then you're going to lose them, which is how Marvel or DC picked up the character we call Shazam,
Right.
which was Captain Marvel, which was a
Right.
big competitor to Superman. He actually outsold Superman, Fawcett Comics,
Yeah.
Wiz Comics. Captain Marvel's really fun, totally fun. Anyway, back to the comic book history. You probably already know this shit, but
No, not a lot of it. Some of it.
okay. Well, part of the problem is once they clean up house, they realized, oh, we got to bring these characters back. So they opened up that can of worms again. Like, okay, well, we got to bring the stories of Earth One back. Here's Captain Midnight, and here's these other kind of characters who formed the Justice Society, not the Justice League.
Right.
This was like these World War II era characters that were around. And then over time, DC and Marvel both were acquiring the rights to characters. Like when smaller companies would fold, DC would just buy them out, like get all the character rights to the characters, and they would start doing stuff with those characters, which is what happened, why they got Captain Marvel, which they turned into Shazam because they didn't want to put the word Marvel in there. And then at that time, Marvel Comics had Captain Marvel, but Marvel that you were aware
Marvel,
of.
Right.
And then so DC then did Shazam. But then the same problem came back. Well, if we have these stories, we've cleaned house, but then we came back, realized, okay, so then they had to redo everything when the New 52 came along because everything was just all convoluted again. It was like, okay, we're starting back at zero. Fuck it. We're just going to wipe out 75 years of history. We're going to be cherry picking what we like from this history and then start over. Well, the longtime fans were just pissed as fuck, as you can imagine. You invest 75 years into a character, then it's like, we're just getting rid of this Robin. We don't want him anymore.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Like what? Well, the New 52 kind of went a few years and then fizzed out, and then they did another reset and started over yet again, and then they're on then that only lasted a couple years, and now they're on a new one, and then they went back to numbering the comic books. Like Action Comics got started back at 0 or 1, and then they realized, okay, let's just pretend we didn't do this stuff, but we're going to add up all these issues that we did print. Say we stopped at issue 885 and we did another 100 issues between then. Let's just start with 986. Okay, that's perfect. Let's go back to the original numbering and just go back to it. And so that's where they're at now with the whole like Infinite Frontiers timeline. So I got like all these different I'll just since I don't think we're going to get a guest today. He said he was coming, but I'm okay with that.
I don't know what the deal is, man. I don't know if he's got something going on or
it's all right, man. I'll pull up some of these. But DC, like every couple of years, they have been like reinvigorating or reinventing their branding. Once the New 52, because the New 52 they had 52 books out, I think, but that wasn't referring to the number of books they had out. It was referring to the number of universes that were left.
Okay.
So they're like, oh, okay. I think it's if I'm understanding correctly. So they had the the New 52, which was from 2011 to 2015, then DC Rebirth, which was 2016 to 2018. Then they had DC Universe from 2018 to 2021, and now they're doing Infinite Frontier.
That's a lot of turnover, man.
So
That's like real
yeah,
quick. Like that's not it's a
there's
couple of years and on to the next thing. That's essentially
yeah,
the same.
they're struggling, and then Marvel has done kind of the same thing. Marvel,
Yeah,
but they were doing it more individual titles. Like Fantastic Four had a run, then they came back for like 12 issues, and they left again, and they came back. They're like on the sixth version of Fantastic Four. Same thing with
right,
the Avengers are on like volume 5. Same thing with Captain America. Like Captain America had a really great run with Jim Brubaker. That's where the death of Captain America. Captain America's
right,
murdered. I'm like, well, who the fuck's going to carry the shield? How can you have a Captain America book with no Captain America? But they pull it off.
right,
Um, that's where you see Bucky come in as the Winter
right,
Soldier and that whole
right.
storyline, which is fantastic. I love Bucky. He's my favorite sidekick. So we have
Yeah,
Marvel.
he was pretty rough though in the when it was the Nazi punching phase when he was just like, "Hey, I'm Bucky," and he was
Yeah, I don't even have a shield. I'm just going to run at you,
just a
Nazi
guy with
bastards.
a yeah, just a guy, just a regular guy.
Exactly.
Man, I gotta
So,
be honest. I never really liked the sidekicks either. Like, I don't like what's his face that shares, you know, Captain Marvel when during that phase. That guy, Rick
oh,
Jones.
Captain Mark. Oh, I see.
I was not a Rick Jones fan. Like some people loved that guy. Like, and
Yeah.
they kept him around because of it. But it was like he's just like, hey man, I'm a guy from the '70s. Like, who fucking cares? Get the fuck out of
Yeah.
the way. You're a
Yeah.
liability.
Well, the sidekicks, I mean, the comic books were written for children at the time. They weren't even considered, and if you were
Right.
older than 10 reading a book, you were looked at as being, some kind of a problem. This is a special child.
Yeah.
But so the sidekicks were in there to give you someone to relate to. Not every, because
Okay, I get
yeah,
it.
because Peter Parker was really the first teenage superhero.
Right.
So before that, Batman is already grown up. Wonder Woman's at Amazon. I mean, all these other
Right.
characters are Superman. Although there was Superboy, who was like a toddler, then grew up to be a teenager. But that was came out. He wasn't a teenager until like the 60s or 50s. So but it was still like Superboy and the League of Superheroes. It was still like he was just still Superman. It wasn't dealing with any like real personal problems.
Right.
But Marvel had the big thing where they would kept on doing these individual books. Then they went wholesale change. And I think the big change for them was in 2012. I thought, okay, DC started over. Oh, fuck. Well, we better do the same. So they went to Marvel Now, which lasted from
Yeah,
2012 to
Marvel now is not very good. I
no,
bought an Omni.
2012 to 2016. Oh, go ahead, man.
No, I bought an Omni because it was one of the first things I bought from Ollie's was an Omni. It was like $12, and I'm like, holy shit, these things sell for like 120 new. So it's well, it turns
Yeah.
out it was just I thought it was like the entire run of Marvel now.
Oh, yeah.
I
No,
knew it
no.
was a rebrand, but it was just the first issues of each. Now, not all of them were terrible. There's a
Yeah.
I don't think the Uncanny Avengers is a Marvel Now title, but there is like a shit. There is an Avenger. There's a storyline from Marvel Now, about which it touches on in Multiverse when they go see the Illuminati, and
Hmm.
it's fucking Professor Xavier
Hmm.
and Reed and all these people that you're
Yeah.
familiar with.
Namor's on there too.
Yeah, so like that storyline's awesome. That's where they get like the convulgence where like if they don't do something, another Earth is going to appear and smash
Conversions.
into this one. Yeah.
Okay.
I think is that what it's called? What was it called?
Conversions.
Or convergence. Yeah. Yeah. I
Okay.
think that's what I said, but I
Convulsions is something I did in my pants last night. But yes.
also not that, and also not conversions, which is what I thought I might have said, but I don't know.
Oh yeah,
But
that's
it's
okay.
super cool. It's a great storyline. Like I love that
Mhm.
storyline. I think it's fantastic.
I think the Illuminati was brought up, at least the first time I remember seeing it. This group of super smart people, and that was Namor, and it was Mr. Fantastic
Yep.
and
Tony Stark.
Doctor Strange,
Yep.
and maybe someone else, maybe Stark,
Yeah.
was in the World Planet Hulk series.
Okay.
Are you familiar with that storyline?
Slightly.
It's Hulk. They just realized Hulk's just getting stronger and stronger and getting angrier
Right.
and angrier, and he just causes so much destruction. They said, let's find a way to like get Hulk off of the earth, but we don't want to hurt him. because we
Yeah,
can't.
because that's kind of, they kind of touch on that in
Yeah, because you can't kill
Ragnarok,
him. That's
right?
the thing. Yeah, you can't
Right.
kill him. Right. Well, Ragnarok is kind of takes up on that. What they did was they essentially tricked him to going into a spaceship that they said they they had it. They found a planet that was like peaceful and tranquil, and it was just flush with flora and fauna, and he would be the only
Yeah.
like humanoid on this planet. They
Right.
thought Hulk will finally have peace. That was their intent. Great, great idea. Well, something happens to the ship. It malfunctions on its way there. It lands on this hostile planet, which essentially you see in Ragnarok. So he
Right.
becomes this gladiator, and then he realizes who did it, who tricked him, and then he's really pissed, and then he becomes like the champion, like the king of this world, like, and then finally he calms things down, he gets peace, and then he said, hey, your majesty, we found your spaceship, we can fix it. And he's like, oh well, fuck, fix it, because I'm going back to kill. And then that ushers in the World War Hulk storyline where he comes back to Earth and he's pissed,
Yeah.
so but yeah, but so they get the Marvel now, and then you got Marvel Legacy, or before Legacy, then you get the all new, all different Marvel with from like 2015, 2018, Marvel Legacy 2017, 2018, and then Marvel A Fresh Start 2018, 2019. And it's like you just can't keep track of it. It's just
Yeah,
literally.
and they're not there. It just seems like the whole thing's struggling. I like the Uncanny Avengers storyline.
Mhm.
I have three, I think, trade paperbacks of that, and I think there's a lot of them, and I'm way behind in it. But the first three are, oh, they're really good. It's nice to see, like, I mean, I'm familiar with all the characters, and it's cool to see, like, okay, this is something new to me. I mean, maybe it's not to lifelong fans and collectors, but it seems like it's kind of a new take on things, and I like it. I think it's pretty cool. Um, so I mean, at least 3 books into it might really shit out, but there was some okay titles. I remember, reading a few of those in the Omni, being
Mhm.
like, this seems pretty cool. Like the
Yeah.
Red She-Hulk seemed like a pretty cool storyline, and
Okay. Yeah, that's an era I haven't read yet. I mean, I liked She-Hulk, the character. Didn't read too much about her or of her in the time. I was kind of phasing out of comic books at the time, but I was aware of her.
yeah,
And this was before they kind of originally she was just this kind of savage She-Hulk, and now when they reinvented her made her the attorney
right,
and really and funny, that was a much better comic book. Which if you get a
right.
chance to see the TV series, do you have Disney
Oh yeah,
Plus?
it's on my
Oh,
queue
it's
to watch.
definitely worth the watch. Definitely worth the watch. Um, yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, I am gonna recommend some books to you that I think you might like, because you don't they're not necessarily part of the continuity that
Mhm.
some DC books that are not superhero books per se. I think you would really like the Animal Man, which is written by Grant Morrison,
Okay.
and Swamp Thing, which was written by
Oh,
Alan
Swamp
Moore.
Things. Yeah, I want the Alan Moore Swamp. I have
Yeah,
some new Swamp Thing stuff, but I
fantastic.
know
And
Alan Moore Swamp Thing is
yeah,
something I want to get
amazing
into.
stuff. And Animal Man, his powers, he can like communicate with animals, and they kind of take on their characteristics and things like that.
Okay.
But it's really it becomes much more about politics, like and just it's a great story, great comic book. But he's a superhero of type,
Yeah.
but not.
I'll tell you, there's another, I have this one. The Creature Commandos was a
Oh yeah, yeah,
DC book.
with Frankenstein and
Yeah,
yeah.
and honestly, damn man, like some of those stories I actually stopped and was like, whoa,
Yeah,
they're touching on some deep shit here.
I've not read it, but I have it. I'm like, oh,
Dude, it's
that looks
fucking
fun.
great. It's
Yeah,
absolutely great. And it's not even like, it's not great because it's like such a I mean, think about it. It's such a silly concept, but
right.
dude, the stories are like, wow, dude, that's super. There's at least 2 or 3 books that I was actually taken aback by the ending. I was like, damn,
Hmm.
that's legit.
Yeah,
What
see,
else do
that's
I have?
that's
I have
that's what's great about comic book, the medium. When you get surprised. With,
Vigilante. I think that was a
okay,
pretty good book. That was a Wolf, what's his name? He's a good writer
Wolfman,
too. Wolfman, yeah.
Marv Wolfman.
Marv, yeah.
Yeah, he's the one who wrote the Crisis on Infinite Earths back in the
Okay.
'86. Yeah,
Yeah.
he was really big at DC at the time. But he used to be a Marvel guy.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Um
Mhm.
I also like he did Skull, right? Did
I don't
Marv Wolfman
know.
do Skull?
I don't remember offhand. Yeah, I
Um
don't recall.
that's a fun read. But I really liked Weird World, and they brought Weird World back. I know I just went off on a tangent, but they brought it back
Yeah.
in modern times. The first I like some of the Battle Zone stuff, which is a Marvel offshoot. They rewrote Secret Wars
Okay.
like in the past 10,
Yeah,
20
well, they
years.
yeah, they redid it because that also came out in the 80s. That came out a
Yeah,
few
no,
years.
I have the original. That's where
Yeah, the
Spider-Man
84.
gets the symbiote. And
Right,
I
right.
love that original storyline, but I want to read this one. I'm
Okay,
not big into reboots, but I know what happens at the end of this one
I
because
see.
I've read the offshoots of that comic, which are
Okay,
all like the battle zones and battle world and all that
right,
shit.
right.
And dude, the outcome of that is way different and crazy. I'm really
Okay.
excited to tear
Yeah, well,
into
don't
that
spoil
book.
it. But
No,
yeah, that's why I know they're both retreading the same ground. Like Marvel's done Civil War 2, and I think they're really doing another Civil War. They've done Secret War, again, Secret War. And DC's doing the same thing with Infinite Crisis, or Crisis on Infinite Earths, Infinite Crisis. Now they're doing Dark Crisis, which is like, Jesus Christ, can you not think of something brand new?
right.
It's like when Star Trek, the redid Star Trek reboot came out. I liked it. And I thought, Star Trek 2, I'm like, okay, we got a whole new continuity, a whole new thing. And what they do, they brought back fucking Khan. I don't know, well, if I didn't spoil it for you.
No,
But
I love that. I love
I'm
Khan.
like,
That's I,
I love Khan, but I'm like, okay, you have literally the universe to go. And what do? You go back to fucking
dude, he
Khan.
was great. He's great.
I know, but
He's so
still
great.
the
And
point,
I love that
but
Khan.
they
I
borrowed from
love that
Fire.
one.
They borrowed from Fire, or was it Fire? No, not Firefall. The James Bond movie, Skyfall.
Yeah.
Khan, the villain in Star Trek 2, the new one, was the villain from Skyfall.
Oh, really?
If you look at it, because have you seen Skyfall?
No.
Oh, okay. Skyfall is one of the best James Bond movies I think of
Well, that's
ever.
recent though, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, within the last 8 or so years. Yeah.
Wait, so what Khan?
And
Oh, are we talking about the new
not
Star? So
82. We're not talking about Star Trek
that's my
82.
Khan.
I
Yeah.
love that con. Ricardo Montalban, fucking
Yes.
sexy as hell. Great, great movie. No, the new Star Trek that came
Yes.
out in like
No.
2009 with all the
Right.
lens flares. They have like three of those movies, and the first one's
Yes.
great. Well, the second movie, have you seen like Star Trek Into
I
Darkness? I
have.
think.
I have. Yeah.
Well, they bring back Khan, different storyline, but it's the same basic plot as Skyfall, where he's a disenfranchised, union officer, like who's mad at the union for for fucking him over, so he's going to get revenge. Well,
Right.
Skyfall is very similar to that in that context. I'm like, I've seen this movie. I've seen both of these movies. Why am I here? Um, so another book I'm going to recommend for you is Sandman, Neil Gaiman Sandman, that came out
It's on my list. Yeah. I want
1989.
I want the whole line. I liked
Yeah.
the show. I thought the show was great.
I haven't seen the show. Is that on HBO?
Netflix.
Mhm.
I've heard that it's already canceled because it costs
Oh,
too much money. So, they made one season. It sounds like it's on the chopping block, but
oh Jesus.
I don't
Well, that's
know.
too bad.
It's a really great show. It's very vivid.
Yeah.
I mean, talking about dreams, it's pretty rad. And
I'll watch it.
I love the character casting. I thought was fantastic. So yeah, I enjoyed the show. I
Yeah, the
wanted to read the
comics
book
are great.
prior. Yeah, I wanted to read it prior to, seeing that, but
You're
I'm
not going to
also
be impressed with the artwork because the artwork is rather flat. Um, but I think it's because Gaiman's story is way more important than the pictures. It's not like, you don't have this. Some of the artists are better, but they bring in a new artist for every story arc. There's like a
okay.
75 issue story arc. It's like 75 issues long, and there's a bunch of tangential books that came from that. But the original story arc is 75 issues. But there's like a 5 issue story arc, a 5 issue, a 3 issue, an 8
Yeah.
issue, so they have these different stories built within. And sometimes the art is just downright bad. It's like, but it's more about the story,
Right.
but
Right.
yeah, that's a good one. I definitely want to recommend it. Watchmen. I don't know if you've ever read
Yep.
that.
No, I fucking love Watchmen. I
Yeah,
love V for
and I love the
Vendetta.
movie. I don't know why people have a problem with the movie.
I
The
don't
movie
know
is
why either. Like
it's
I
like
like the
so
book
fucking
better, but
close to the
yeah,
to the comic book. It's like, what's
it
the
is.
problem? Well, it doesn't have the Black Freighter. I'm like, but that was so fucking what?
It's very minute. It was great. The
I mean,
casting was perfect.
Black Freighter works in the comic book, but you're not going to try to bring that in. It's going to muddy down the waters and get rid of
They
the story of the murder mystery of who's killing the suits.
right. They did in the extended, like the deluxe edition, they included the Black
That's what I
Freighter.
heard, and then I know there's also in the animated version. There's
That's
a
yeah,
is that
that's
the
what
one you
they
want? Oh yeah,
that's
yeah.
well no,
The
I mean
motion
like
comic.
they put it in. I believe they put the animated Black Freighter in, they just
Oh yes,
inserted it
yes.
into the film. I think
And there
that's how
is
that
a
went.
motion comic version that's 6 hours long. Because it's all 12 issues, about a half hour an issue, and that is
Okay.
fantastic. Um, yeah, I mean, because who doesn't love Rorschach? I mean, he's my favorite character of the
Right.
bunch. You know, it's like he's if Batman had no money,
Right.
that's
Here
Rorschach.
he is.
Batman without
Here he
money.
is.
You
Yep.
know, um, yeah, it's just a great book. The movie is fantastic. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love I have the director's cut. It's a little bit longer. I'm like, yeah, I can just watch it any fucking day of the
Yeah.
year, which is great.
It is. It's solid.
What other, let's see, what other book? Yeah, The Crisis on Infinite Earths, I definitely also recommend. I mean, if you don't, you know of the DC characters, just like when reading
Right.
Kingdom Come, you know the DC characters. You don't have to know a lot about them to kind of understand it.
Right.
The Kingdom Come is more self-contained. It's like 160 pages. It's a self-contained story. Whereas Crisis affects the entire DC universe, but still a
Right.
really good book. Um, but let's see. What other books are out there that you might really like? There's one, I don't know if you can even find it in a graphic form anymore. Maybe a collection. Milk and Cheese. It was
Hmm.
an indie comic put out. It was this guy who started drawing a pint-sized carton of hate and a wedge of spite. These little milk and cheese products, dairy products gone bad. Anyway, they're foul mouthed. They make fun of everybody. There's social commentary and criticism, and they go around like yelling and beating up people with like clubs and stuff. And it's just so funny and off the wall. Um, those are great. They're just black and white. There's one
Yeah.
called Vomit, and where Milk and Cheese has just been drinking way too much booze, and they're like, "Oh, I'm gonna get so sick," and anyways, like leaning out the window of their apartment, like, "Hey, let's throw up on people." They start vomiting on people, and there's this great like splash page where they're both like simultaneously vomiting on one another, and the caption is "bulimic food fight." I'm like, oh fuck me. That is fantastic.
Oh man, you're
Yeah,
gonna be
milk.
hard pressed to find that in the physical realm these days.
Yeah, that would be an awesome cartoon. I'd love to see it like by the people who did like the early SpongeBob's could do a really good rendition of Milk and Cheese. That so yeah, I recommend if you can find Milk and Cheese, that would be a good book. But yeah, but there's just I mean, there's so much content out there, and I mean,
Yeah.
I kind of stopped reading back in the 90s just because I had no money. I mean, I couldn't afford comic books. They were only $1.25 at the time.
Right.
But I was getting 30 titles a month, so that that
Right.
might
It
be
adds
part of it.
up. Yeah.
Mhm. And now it's just like, I don't have to. I still try to support if there's something I really like, I'd like to buy it, but
Right.
right now it's just there just hasn't been anything that's stood out that's just not regurgitation, or there's just nothing out there that's like calling out
Right.
to me, you know. So
That's
I
how I
like,
am with that's how I
yeah.
am with everything. And believe me that the downsizing eventually I am. Eventually I'm not going to have all this. I just don't I'm going to get to an age where I haven't touched it in years. I'm just listening to music like everyone else does, and
Right.
just using Spotify or YouTube and
Or a hard
but
drive with all your music on
right,
it.
yeah. And I mean for me like I'm this collection's only been out of boxes for a few years
Hmm.
because I've moved so much and I collected over those years fervently and it didn't see the light of day for like 10 years. I had at least 3 or 4 duplicates, which is shockingly low, for as many titles as I have. But I was starting to buy duplicates because I couldn't fucking check. I never looked at I couldn't see my collection. It was just in a
Yeah.
so,
Yep.
and this house is small. So it's like we have a pretty big DVD collection and it's like they're in boxes right now because I don't have a place for them. So it's like if you want to watch a title, you got to dig through like 25 boxes.
Hmm.
I got them in those like they call them, so there's some kind of special name for them, but they're corrugated plastic boxes. Keep mildew and mold and shit
Hmm.
out of there. But so we got them in nice containers. But at the same time, like when I want to go down and pull out Halloween movies or pull out Christmas movies or shit like that, it's like they're not in boxes labeled Halloween and Christmas movies. They're alphabetical. So it's like you
Oh,
got to know
okay.
the title, and then I got
Yeah.
to dig and dig and dig and dig to
Yeah.
find them. And it's like, fuck
Yeah, it
this,
becomes a
man.
pain in the ass. No, no,
Right.
I totally get it. I was kind of buying duplicates of some of the toys I had, like my Ultraman figures and things like that. because I would buy them at G Fest because they were so cheap, like $5 or $10. I'm like, oh,
Right.
I'll buy 15 of these, and
Yeah.
like I put them in a bag because I had no more room. I was literally out of room in my space downstairs in my old room. I just had no room on shelves. I'm like, I
Yeah.
can't store any of this. So I'd be like, I'd have these bags and boxes of toys, and I'd forget what I had. So I go back to G Fest, like, oh man, I thought I bought this, but it's only $5.
Right.
I'll go ahead and get it again.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know,
You get better,
I'm like,
better safe than
I
sorry,
know
man.
it's like it's a $5. It's like, but no, I totally get it. But once I started making the transition to digital, like even like books and things, yeah, I realized I have a tablet where I've got over 10,000 books on it. Like,
Right.
it's, am I ever going to read it all? No, of course not. But I'm at the age where we are really just trying to pare down like the stuff that we have, like
Yeah.
just
I
the
get it.
amount of like stuff. And if I can have stuff in a digital format and just store it on a hard drive, it's like I can have everything I want, but not have to worry about storing it somewhere or trying to find it. I just go to the
Right.
hard drive and there it is. It's never going to replace holding a comic book or holding a book in your hand.
Right.
But what I want to get, maybe I'll buy it for myself for Christmas this year. I want to get a tablet that's like a 13-inch tablet, a good sized tablet, because that will be about the size of like a comic book page. So
Yeah.
I can just have a tablet and I can load it up and I can just read and just carry that around. And that'll be like physically holding a tablet, you know. But
Right.
that would be
No,
awesome.
that's a cool thing. I mean, honestly, like even with the comic books are kind of, well, the trade paperbacks and
Hmm.
omnis, that's kind of, I recently kind of have gone sort of buck wild on it because I don't know, it's my new phase that I'm kind of going through, and I'm not like
Sure.
crazy about it. I used to love going to, record stores, and I could spend an hour at the Illyria Exchange with no problems. It was
Hmm.
usually closer to two. In the
Hmm.
original, like when well, not the original, but when it was over by the Chinese restaurant,
Yeah.
so how big that was, like
Put in King. Oh,
before,
it was a big store.
yeah, before they, well, I mean, I think it was before they expanded. I'm talking like the one little, basically it was a hole in the wall, and I could spend so much
Hmm.
time in there and just, going through the budget rock, the entire budget
Hmm.
rock section, $250,
Right.
$5 CDs. You got to look at the entire section.
Yeah,
Then
because
you got to go over and you
you
got to go
can't
through
pass up on
the
a 250 CD,
right. And then
especially if you find, yeah, you can't.
you got to go over to the regular price stuff, and you got to look through that. Then you got to look through the records. And at the time, all the records were, I won't, if you put records on a wall like this, and if I do this, you can see, I think it's this way. I don't know what fucking way it is. So you can
Oh
see how my
yeah, I see
records
your
are.
vinyls. Yeah, yeah, right.
So if I go into a record store and I got to look at records like that,
Hmm.
I'm not doing it. It ain't happening.
Right. If they're in the
It
bin
takes,
and they're facing you, you can kind of just
yep.
flip through them.
Yeah. I need to be able to,
Yeah,
I'm trying
look
to
at the
think of
cover. You need to see it.
yeah, I got to see the
Right.
cover,
It's
you
like
know?
it's like looking through at comic book boxes the same way. I would do the same thing. Just flip through comics, look for titles. Right. I used to go to the Jamie's flea market all the time and flea markets in general and yard sales looking for comics.
Right.
And there's a guy at Jamie's who had, oh my God, he must have had, I don't know, 70 boxes of comic books. Must have been 20,000 comic books. And he had them 3 for $1, all of his books. And I would just go fucking hog wild, man. I'd be like, I'd take $100 with me and then get a garbage bag, paper, like grocery bag full. That was
Right.
about 300 books.
Right.
And that's how I would, like, money I had, I would save up from work. I would just go there and buy
Right.
300 books at a time, and that's how I built my collection. But, no, I totally get it, man. I totally
And it's,
totally
if you
get it.
got if you got the space for it, that's cool.
Yeah. And
But
now
if you,
I
if,
don't have to, fortunately. It's like, I don't have to worry about it.
right.
That's fine too. It's a whole different
Right.
world, and now it's just like, I know I'm never going to look at all the anime that I have or all the movies. I mean, I know I'm just I'm never gonna, but that's kind of like, well, I still miss the hunt and like finding things, and there's
Right.
still a
It was
pleasure in
fun, man.
acquiring.
It was, yeah,
Yeah.
it was so fun. It's fun when you go to a place and you find something cool. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know what it applies to a lot of things,
Yeah.
but it's like, it's still that way when you're sitting, you know, heavy metal flea market last year was in September. And I think I've shared this story with you, maybe even on the show. But I definitely, made a post about it because I bought that, we're big Chris Black fans. Chris Black on vinyl. Yeah, we're gonna buy it. We already have this on CD. We might even have it on cassette. We're gonna buy it on vinyl too, right? And there's a record, one of my Desert Island records, and I could never find the damn thing, and it's like $100 if I do it. I'm like, fuck this. I can't get it. It's one of my favorite records, Into the Lair of the Sun God. And I bought that one Chris Black record. Now, oftentimes when you buy records that aren't sealed, they'll have the vinyl on the outside of the case.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be the sleeve, and then the vinyl record will be in front of it. And I don't know if that's kind of keep it from creasing or something. It's like that a lot when you buy records that aren't sealed in shrink wrap or whatever that shit's called, cellophane, whatever. And I flipped it over, and I remember when we went to buy it, I was like, oh, this is Into the Lair of the Sun God. Holy shit. And I turned it around. I'm like, oh no, it's not. And that's okay. We're still going to get it because it's $15 and we want to have all his shit on vinyl. Right. And I bought it. And this is the thing that I do when I buy anymore is it usually I'll buy something CD record and it just lays around for like a year. This happens with a lot of my trade paperbacks too, unless I'm actively reading that storyline. And it takes me a really long time to get to them. Even music, I'm the same way. I'll listen to other shit that I've already listened to before I even listen to the new thing that I bought that I wanted. So like a year later, we got to that record. Maybe it was 6 or 7 months. Let's put some Chris Black on. And I pulled that out and I was like, what the fuck? The record's in the sleeve. What's this other record? Holy shit. It's Into the Lair of the Sun God.
Oh, right.
We
Yeah,
just got
yeah,
a
you got
free
two
fucking
records.
copy of that.
Yeah.
That was exciting. That was the hunt. We found something that we thought we wanted. Oh, it turns out it wasn't the exact thing you wanted, but still something you wanted for a fair price. You buy it. Holy shit, surprise. You got the record you've been after for fucking free.
Yeah.
Like, and and that's when I messaged Chris and I said, do you happen to have a fucking sleeve for this? And he did. He fucking had a sleeve. So I got the record and the sleeve for free. $100 fucking record for free. So yeah, that was that was pretty exciting.
That's the stuff that makes you happy. I mean, that's like, if that's what you collect, that's what does it for you.
Right.
Being able to get that bonus like that.
But there's also, I'm sure you've experienced too, where there's the dark side of the excitement as well, where I went into the flea market probably 5-6 years ago, and there was a dude in there and he had a bunch of fucking metal on vinyl. And I was like, I found a copy of Show No Mercy, my favorite Slayer record. I wanted it on vinyl. I knew they had repressed it like several dozen times. So you could get it new for like $25. And I pulled it out and I asked the guy, how much you want for Show No Mercy? And he was like, I think the sun blasted that one. And the record was fucking warped. It was like rolled over on an end. And he goes, for a show version or for a show copy, $35. And I was like, I can't play this fucking record.
Yeah.
You think I want to buy it for $35 just to hang it on my fucking wall? Like,
right.
And all of his records were like super overpriced.
Oh, yeah.
Fuck you, dude. I've had the situation where one time I believe it was me and a couple people went up to Jamie's and there was a dude outside, same scenario, fucking boatload of metal vinyl. And we're fucking tearing it up, man. I think I bought 5 or 6 records. It might have been $25. The guy had really fair prices on them, like 10, anywhere from $5 to $15 a record. That's fair. That's good.
Mm-hmm.
And bought a bunch of shit from him. The next time he was there, which the next weekend we went, we're like, oh, metal guy's got to be there. Oh, he was there. Except this time, titles that were like $5 or $10 the last time we were there were now like $20 to $30.
Oh, geez.
He was like, I know those kids are coming back and I'm just going to screw them. And we didn't buy anything. We were like, oh, well, too bad, bud.
Yeah.
Put your prices back to where they were. Mm-hmm. And this was before the craze. This was before like metal records now.
Mm-hmm.
You don't even want to, if there's no price on them, you don't want to ask. Went to that record store in Las Vegas and there was a box of just amazing titles on the floor. And the guy, as soon as I walked in, he's like, you ever been here? And I'm like, no. And he's like, well, look, we don't put prices on anything. If you're interested in something, you bring it up and we'll tell you what we want for it. That's how they do it. And I was looking through those records and I was just like, not even going to ask about any of these. It's just going to be embarrassing for me to ask. And I don't have it in my heart to get my soul crushed by these super crazy high prices.
Right. No, I get it. And when you find a reputable dealer or someone who's just selling at a fair price, you don't mind buying from them. You actually want to do that. And I would do the same thing with comic books. And, I was always searching for that Grail comic book, like at a garage sale. Someone had like a Action Comics or maybe even the first appearance of Spider-Man. Like they didn't know what it was. Oh,
Right.
that's $1. I'm like, okay, because that's $100,000 comic book.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I like the best deal I got was it was Batman, I think issue four 470, 428, maybe 428, The Death of Robin from
Okay.
the like late 1980s, early 90s. Yeah, late 1980s. Anyway, that book was like $75 at the time. It was a hot book. And
Yeah.
I got it for $1 or something, or 50 cents. I'm like, I was looking for the reprint marks because they would always put like, if it was a reprint, they would put like a Roman number 2 or 3 or whatever to let you
Right.
know, like, this is a
Right.
reprint. And this was the original. I'm like, how much for the comic books? Oh, they're all $1. I'm like, oh fuck, okay. You know, but there was a great place in Newcastle, Pennsylvania that I went to. My buddy Fred lived there, and they had a comic book shop. This guy he probably had 100,000 comic books easy, and like half the store, like half of his back stock was like 50 cent in the 50 cent bin. Most or up to $1,
Right.
and like he had like at the time Sandman issue number 8, which was the first appearance of Death, who I thought was really cute
Right.
in the comic books. Anyway, that was like the really hot thing because she was trendy, and so issue 8 was going for like $125. Well, he had his for like, I don't know, 15 or something. He
Right.
goes, I go, is that 15 or 150? He's like, it's 15. He goes, it's not a $125 comic book. I'm like, okay, cool. This guy's good.
Huh,
So
you're right.
yeah, in the Bronze Age books, I saw like a Werewolf by Night #1, which was going for about $30 at the time. I mean, it wasn't in great shape, but it was like, that was in, I think it was $2. He was charging $2 for it. He goes, yeah. He goes, it's not a perfect copy. It's $2. I'm like, fuck. So I mean, I was happy. I'm saying I could have spent like
Right.
$10,000 in that shop, and I know I would have came away thinking I got a really great deals on these
Right.
books because he wasn't into it for the speculation, which is what was driving up comic books in the 90s.
Right.
Like, oh, because X-Men came out with a new book in the early 90s, just called X-Men, I think. And they put out like 6 different covers. That was when like the
Right.
Batman movie came out and everyone was buying Joker shit, like Joker's
Right.
the hot thing. So, and I got caught up into that, it was like I got caught up in the hype for a while and like
Right.
speculate, oh, Marvel's Excalibur, that book. My friend had like 25 of these fuckers, and they were going for like, I don't know, they were like, I don't know, I forget what it was, like $20 or something. They were like hot property. Anyway, he like traded me, I don't know. I bought it. I don't forget how it was, but he's like, he had all these books, but he couldn't sell them because no one wanted to give him $20 for this book. So I just traded him for some other comic books that he wanted of mine.
Hmm.
And then I kind of used those books and kept one and traded for a whole bunch of other stuff,
Right.
and then yeah, I love doing that. I mean, I think, yeah. Anyway, we're really sidetracked, but
No, that's okay. The episode is about comics today.
it is. It's comics.
This shit writes itself.
Yeah. And I remember like when I was in grad school, one of my roommate's friends had a bunch of comic books he was selling because he was reading X-Men. This was the Chris Claremont run from like
Okay.
the Dark Phoenix saga, like issue 175 to like 225. He had like a 50 issue run,
Yeah.
and he just wanted to get rid of them because he needed money, because he just needed the money. So
Right.
I gave him like a buck a piece for the comic books, which was really quite underpriced because these were the hot shit at the time. But he was happy to take the $50 because I think he wanted to go
Right.
out and buy a bottle of booze or something. That's what he wanted. So I got like this 50 issue run of X-Men, which I'm thinking, I don't read X-Men. I know of the characters, but I wasn't reading it. I'm like, I'm not going to worry about trying to get the
That's a
first
good storyline
175.
too.
It is a good storyline, but I took those 50 books and I paid $50 for, or whatever it was, and I traded them in, and I traded somebody else for like 400 comic books. I'm like, well,
Nice.
I got a really fucking good deal because he was like, yeah, I want these books because he's thinking, oh, they're just going to go up in value. And here, I'll give
Right.
you, and they're all just like, they weren't like great issues. They were all like old stock, which is what I wanted. I mean, I'm buying
Right. Right.
shit, and they were like 50-cent books. I'm like, I'll take 550-cent books for this for $50. I'm cool paying
Right.
a dime a piece for a
Yeah.
fucking comic book.
Right. Right.
Yeah, I'll do that all day, So
Yeah, if you the best thing is if you know what you got, people still make accidents at places like the Exchange and such where they don't know what they have and they just throw it in the bargain bin. I bought a Mortification album. It was their first record. They were a Christian death metal band out of Australia.
oh yeah, I know
You
the
remember
name. Yeah.
Mortification?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Well, they've changed. Like they're just a heavy metal band now, but early days they were a death metal band. And that first album, they changed the album art for some reason. I don't know. It was that cool, like
A
neon
baby getting
green,
ripped open.
purple. No, no. This was just. I don't understand why. I don't know if the art
Jesus
got.
aborted from the.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I don't understand if it was like offensive to people in Australia or something. It's nothing. It's on par with like uh the first Morbid Angel record. What's that
Okay.
called? Altars of Madness, I think is what it
Sure.
is. It's got
Why
you
not?
got the cool bowl of soup looking, just crazy death metal art. It's cool.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
cool looking. So
Sure.
the Mortification one's like it's obviously, you know, heaven or something, and it's spewing down like this orange stream of like stretchy faced demons and shit.
Nice.
It looks cool as fuck, but for some reason it either got banned or they quit making that version. I paid $1 for the CD. It was in great shape.
Yeah.
And went and looked it up on eBay and was like, holy shit, this CD's worth $25. But I'm keeping it because like a year later I found it for $250 and I was like, well, I know what it's going for, so I'm gonna grab it and
Right.
reset. I did. I sold it for like $25.
There you go.
I loved that. That was a fun game for me to play too, man. Hot Topic used to do what they called half off day. Well, I call it that. Sorry, it was half off clearance. They did it like once a month, and you could go in and the shit was already marked down because it was on clearance, and then
Where
they
all
would
the
take
teenage
half off the
girls,
tag.
all the teenage kids would go and buy shirts of bands they pretended to know.
Dude, yeah. So I went in there one time, dude, and they had
Mice I like the Mice Fits. They're rocking.
I went in and they had I think 4 or 5 double picture disc Nightmare Before Christmas soundtracks, and they were like $1.50 a piece.
Holy fuck! I would have bought them just for the artwork.
And I was
Picture
like,
discs, man.
yeah, I'm buying all of these. And there was a Social Distortion, one of the popular social. I don't like the band or know them, but the one with the skeleton guy and that one. And there was something else too. I bought every fucking one of them because they were all like $1.50. I sold every fucking one of them for over $25.
Nice.
Yeah. And I mean, like I made like
great.
$200 off of that score. I mean, of course I kept one of the Nightmare Before Christmases because I love that soundtrack. So
yes, it's beautiful.
I have it on CD and double picture disc, but
nice.
Danny Elfman's fucking awesome.
What are the pictures on the album?
They're actually kind of generic.
Okay.
One of them's like of Zero. One of them's just Jack walking. Like it's not like real, like like where's him on the fucking curly hill? And,
right. Yeah. Exactly.
No, it's just random
iconic.
random stills from the movie. But and the audio quality is a little questionable. Picture discs are oftentimes like that, but it's still cool to have.
You're not buying it for the audio quality.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have them hanging up or anything, but it's still a collector, kind of thing. But yeah, dude, I made a killing off of that.
Nice.
I still have a one of those Todd McFarlane The Troopers in its case. No, it's not The Trooper, is it? It's Killers, when Todd McFarlane did the Trooper and Killer album covers.
I don't.
And he made the toys. He made the toys,
yeah,
McFarlane
okay.
toys.
Yeah.
I still have a Killers in its like plastic. The plastic's like yellowed because it's been in there for so long.
That's what you got to see. Now you won't get full money for that because of the yellowing of the plastic.
The yellowing of the plastic. I know.
You should have had it in a place where sun would get to it. Come on.
It wasn't.
You gotta seal it. You gotta seal it in nitrogen like the goddamn Constitution.
Yeah, I have to fucking give it the old Han Solo carbonite treatment.
Right. So you never, you can't. Oh, don't touch it. Don't touch the plastic. That's awesome. No, I love that.
But yeah, that was a cool thing. And they don't do it anymore. They wanted it. You can only last so long. It was like, I bought a this band's called More. I might have talked about this on a show too once. This kind of came up.
Like MOOR, like the Moors?
No, just MORE.
Oh,
just like I want more.
like the word more. Okay.
Yeah, like the word more. And the logo was kind of cool, and it was kind of like almost like a pentagram, and the album was called Warhead. And I'm like, this is $1. I'm thinking it might be kind of cool. Well, it turns out it's a new wave British heavy metal band, and that
Oh,
fucking record's
nice.
worth way fucking more than $1. It's harder now though because like all those places are using Discogs and eBay and
Mhm,
Amazon to price their shit. So you can still find mistakes where people put like something. I bought a Shock Paris, uh, like a single, like a 12-inch single.
mhm,
I think it was like $6. I think it's worth way more than $6 because it's one of those
nice.
IRS. I think it's an IRS pressing.
Mhm,
That IRS shit's worth a bunch of money. That's why like copies of Tier and fucking Headless Cross were real expensive for a long time. Cross Purposes I think was also on IRS. So when Shock Paris got signed, I think they were on IRS Metal. I'm pretty sure that's what it was. And so IRS stuff, I don't know. It's one of the. I think IRS was it was a subsidiary of some bigger label. Fuck, I don't remember what if it was like Chrysalis or something.
mhm.
And that IRS stuff's still worth money because it's one of those labels that the shit got all tied up somewhere and it's just you can't find it anywhere now.
Hmm,
So
interesting.
you can I bought that single for like $6, I think, and I was like, man, this is really cheap for something like this. Like I feel like it's worth more money. Silly stuff though, man. If you can
Yeah.
find those mistakes, you're oh, you
Well,
mispriced this.
I picked up some of my lovely vinyl finds. I got the Rigor Mortis first album, which we talked about. You showed yours. I actually won mine in a contest,
Yeah.
but I also got on vinyl Valhalla, Billy Joel's first band, way
Oh,
back in the day. Just
nice.
him and the other guy, and came out late '60s. Like
Yeah.
Mr. William Joel is a Capricorn and sweats only two things: Southeast Asia, or perfecting his music in Southeast Asia, or something like that. I'm like, oh, awesome. I just wanted it for the cover. I'm like, if I ever meet Billy Joel, I want this signed. And then
Right.
I got Donny Osmond Disco Train for $1. I
Yeah.
mean, gotta have Donny Osmond Disco Train.
No,
Um,
you got to have the Osmonds Wild Horses.
you had mentioned that as a good album.
Man, that record is fantastic.
I'll check it out. I've got to. But I got Carcass Symphonies of Sickness on cassette for $1.
Nice.
Um, and it might have been used. I don't care. This was at Mad Hatter Records in Bowling Green. It was there were two record stores. There was I forget the mainstream one. Mad Hatter had all like the cool shit.
Yeah.
The other one across the street from Mad Hatter it was like more of a more traditional you know big label kind of stuff. And you walk in and Elvis Costello's playing, like, oh, Jesus Christ.
Right.
um they have albums in a record. It was just really overpriced. Mad Hatter had like
Right.
the coolest fucking shit, and that's where you could buy like the bongs and things.
Right. Right.
um
Right.
but that's where I got Rigor Mortis, that, or well, no, that's where I won Rigor Mortis from. But I got the Carcass Symphonies of Sickness, which I'd never heard of. I looked at the song titles. I'm like,
That's a good one.
Inscalating, or the Insalubrious. I'm like, what the fuck is all this? This has got to be great.
It is good, man.
Yeah, it's a
It's
great
fucking
album.
great.
And I also got well, that's where I got the album Exorcist Nightmare Theater
Okay.
for $1 on vinyl.
Yep.
And like, wow, this is fantastic. I love this,
That
man.
fucking record is fucking amazing,
Yeah,
man.
I don't know if I ever showed you. I don't know if you were there. Maybe not. I don't think you might have been gone that episode after we
Yeah, I
talked.
wasn't able. Yeah, I wasn't able to
Well,
come on to that
yeah,
show.
well, we did talk with David DeFay, and I actually ended up buying the double disc set, or three
Oh, there's a
discs.
double disc.
It's
Wait,
actually
where'd you get that?
I had to go online and look for it, but it's actually got three discs.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There was supposed to be. Is what's
Yeah,
all on there?
well, you got three versions of this album. So you got the regular album, the Father, and then there's version 2, the Son, and then there's version 3, the Unholy Spirit. Basically, they have bonus tracks. Each of them have bonus tracks. Like the second version, the Son had. Let's see, the first album version has 16 tracks. The second one has 32 tracks, and the third one has 25 tracks. So they have a lot of bonus tracks, alternative versions, alternative vocal versions, different takes, remixes, things like that. But yeah,
Yeah, no,
it,
I need to
it
snag
costs.
that.
It was like about $18. It was more than
Right.
I haven't bought it. This was the first CD I'd bought since the Puppet Master in 2005. Because I just don't need to buy it, but I couldn't find it
Right.
anywhere else. So after we did our show with Dave DeFay, I'm like, I gotta fucking get this because I love this record.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it was
No,
awesome.
that's cool. I would love it. The one thing that I think kind of plights that record is the production. Like I want a little more clarity in the production.
Yeah,
And not because I'm like a purist, but like I want to hear those riffs. And those riffs,
yeah,
it sounds like they might get a little on the muddy side.
yeah, and you're absolutely right. So I have not actually taken the time even to put it in my computer to listen to it. So I have no idea what the sound quality is, but
Right.
I still listen to the album. It's a great album. But that was like some of my music deals. Like, oh yeah, like Rigor Mortis. Oh, also Omen. I think Omen's self-titled album with Kill on Sight and the first song's about being a werewolf. I think I forget. Like, yeah, Omen, like, oh, this is a good band. I like these
Yeah.
guys. Um, yeah, but Mad Hatter that was the place to get all the cool records. That's where we ended up selling when the Pigs did our stuff in Charlotte's
Yeah.
Web. That's where we would sell our cassettes because they would just let you sell them. They would like take like 10% or something. They weren't going to rip you
Right.
off. They were just happy to
Right.
have your stuff. So, you know, you could just leave a stack of 10 tapes, like, okay, we want $5 a piece from Narc. Okay. And they would tell you when they would sell. So,
Right. Right. Right.
I mean, the guy was really cool. He owned the place. I think he was, stoned half the time. And like he lived in a college town, so he got to bang a lot of college chicks. And he was like in his 40s. I'm like, all right, that's the life. He owns a college, he wants to bang chicks half his age and he has cool music and pot. Like
Right.
it's not a bad life for him, I guess.
No, not at all.
So, yeah, he actually and a friend of mine, they were actually started dating for a while. I'm thinking because we were in college and he was definitely twice our age. I'm like, all right, good for both of you.
Right.
I'm like, good, man.
Nice.
Yeah, that's good. Well, hey, man, it's 2:20. We should probably get out of here and let you get on with your day. I feel bad we didn't get to do an interview, but I
Uh,
really just had a good time always, as always,
yeah.
talking with you. You know, um, Gonna miss the fuck out of you, man. Really, seriously, man.
Nah.
But we could still get together. I mean, we're trying to get together over. We're gonna in November when Nikki Law, she's our last guest
Yeah.
for the season. We're gonna try and get together over Christmas. So we'd love to, if you are gonna be around at all, we'd love to get together with you and
Yeah, I
hang
should be
out. And,
around Christmas around that time.
sometime because we all have time off
Right.
and
Right. Right.
just to get together in person and just hang out. You
Right.
know, would be great. So,
Yeah. No doubt.
but anytime, I mean, you know how to get a hold of me. If any of those books you want, just to have as a placekeeper until you buy the books.
Right. Yeah.
Because those omnibuses that you're talking about, are you talking about the black and white collections? Are they black and white? Or are they
No,
full
like
color?
they're full color. They're fucking
Oh, okay.
huge tomes of
Okay.
and
Because
they're complete storylines. I had to try
okay.
to figure it out. I guess the epics that Marvel does, like 4 epics essentially is an omni. So epics and omnis hold the same co- co- c- complete. They're complete.
Okay.
The storylines are
I
complete,
see.
but epics you got to buy several of them. Omnis
Okay.
are
So you're
all
buying the
one.
chapters. If you can't buy it all at once, you can buy it
Essentially, yeah.
increments.
So like
Okay.
epics are like they'll do like a run. It's like usually years, like 1972 to 1973. So everything pertaining to that in that time frame.
That makes
Um,
sense. Yeah, I
yeah.
get it.
So you end up having to buy like several volumes to get what's in an omnibus. That's how
Okay. Well,
how
they
I would.
also do these runs. Like if you're ever interested in reading, like they do big runs. They have two different versions. They've got an upscale Marvel Masterworks collection where they're reprinting a lot of stuff like
Yeah.
golden and silver age stuff,
Yeah.
which
I
is
have
really nice.
he bought me. Oh shit. My buddy bought me this, and it's like the new Masterworks the way they do it now. They're like slightly smaller than an epic.
Okay.
They're not quite the same size. But I think he snagged me like it was the Avengers, and it might have been like the first 6
Oh,
Avengers.
okay.
So
Yeah.
it's like
Okay.
smaller runs,
Right.
and it was neat to look back on that stuff. But
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like
No, I
again, like
totally.
I was like, man, this is kind of painful to read because there's like no. I like in-depth story arc and storytelling,
And the
and
artwork's very simple. And
yeah,
they're
it's very
just
simple, and
finding their
they're
feet.
wham and pow and silly.
Sure.
And it's just, this is,
Yeah,
I appreciate what it did. And I'm happy that it started because we wouldn't be where we are in
exactly.
comics today if it weren't for that. So
My very first comic book I remember having as a kid. I mean, I had some when I was born. My dad bought me a 3-pack of comics: Phantom, Mandrake the Magician, and Flash Gordon, which
nice.
I still have. Yeah, I love that cover, the Phantom. But I remember as a kid getting a copy. Marvel used to take some of their more popular characters and put them in like a little novel form, like a paperback. And they
Yeah.
had a Spider-Man that had 2 versions of 2 volumes of Spider-Man, the first 6 issues, and then the issues 7 to 12. And I loved that. I mean, I would just carry that and I would read that all the time. It was just the first 6 issues of Amazing Spider-Man,
Right.
and then like the special pages at the end, like here's Peter Parker's utility belt, and here's where he puts his
Right.
web
Right.
fluid, and
Yeah.
and as like an 8-year-old kid, I'm like, fuck, this is awesome, because that was it was so cheap, and I had these, and I'm never gonna pay the money to get the real issues, but no, I totally get it. But Marvel also has these collections that are black and white that
Yeah.
will do like an entire run of a comic book, like they can get Werewolf by
So
Night,
they
Man
used to,
Thing, those things like
yeah,
that.
they, what were they called?
Essentials, I think.
Yeah. They don't make them anymore,
Oh no, okay.
but
I've
you can,
seen them and they were
you can,
great deals. I mean, you get the
yeah.
whole fucking Werewolf by Night for like
Yes.
$20. I'm like, oh
Yeah,
my
it's
god.
way more money now. Some they lost rights to certain things too in that time frame. So some of those essentials are worth a boatload of cash.
Huh.
Some of them you can get dirt cheap. If you go to like Comics or Go up there in Sheffield,
Yeah.
he's got a few essentials that are in there still, like the Thing and uh maybe like a Fantastic Four separate one. Like he's
Mhm.
got 2 or 3 of them. They're like $10,
That's not bad because
they're
you're
real
getting like
cheap.
400 or
Right.
500 pages. It's like a phone book. And
Yeah, so
and
it sucks though
yeah.
how they cut it off for collectors like my friend, who's helped me with a lot of my collecting. He's like, dude, I was so far into those essentials, and then they switched it up to the epics. That's what they do now. Like the epics are the thing.
Okay.
So they cut it off at a certain point, and he's got man, he's got so many epics. His walls look like this, but with epics.
Good for him.
He's got complete runs. Plus, though, he's got like 30 long boxes, and
Yep.
he's got like the entire Conan run
Yeah.
before it was like I don't know what the fuck
Barry
it's
Windsor
called,
Smith of the 70s. Yeah.
but
That
yeah,
was
he's got
cool.
like the big mags. Like he's
Oh
got
yeah,
the
yeah.
full
Savage
fucking run.
Sword. Yep.
He finally completed the entire storyline. It's like 200 and some odd,
Yeah.
comics or books or whatever, and
Excellent.
it's like he's a very thorough collector, man. Like
I get it.
he goes through, and it's like, with completing discographies for him, he used to
Hmm.
collect though too. He used to collect CDs and shit. He's
Yep.
gravitated towards the comics, and that's where he's kind of
That was me. That
stayed.
was the kind of collector I was at the time. Like I wanted to collect it all. Like I wanted
Right.
to literally have everything. And before the days of having like a digital kind of book that you keep track of things,
Right.
I had an old 3-wing binder that I bought, and I had printed out a page that had like like a space to write the comic book title, like 1 to like 996. That's how many numbers I could fit on a single page. And then my dad
Right.
just like made copies for me. And I just had this binder, and I would take it to flea markets with me, and I would like whatever issue, say it was Amazing Spider-Man,
Yeah. Right.
I would highlight all the issues that I already had in it. So when I see a run of Amazing Spider-Man at a flea market, I'd open my book, find Amazing Spider-Man, and if I didn't have it, oh shit, I got this is great. Then I'll just
Right.
add it to the collection, and then and that's how I would used to go to the flea markets, carry this giant giant ass binder.
Chick magnet for sure.
Oh yeah. Well, you can't do both. You can collect comic books or go out with chick magnet, be a chick magnet. And comic books were way better for me, way safer. You know. No, that's awesome though. I still love reading comic books. It still makes me feel like a
Yeah.
kid, and it's just such pure escapism, which is what I love about it. And that's one thing when I read the Ultimates series back when 20 years ago when it first came out, I liked them. I thought, well, this is really good, but there was something missing. I'm like, after a while, I'm like, I felt like unsatisfied in a way. I'm like, what's wrong? And I realized, oh, because these are not stories of, they're not like fantasy escapist fantasies. These are too grounded in reality.
Right.
They're much like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, very, very, which is a nice job of blending classic traditional Marvel and Marvel Ultimates
Right.
Marvel. They really do a nice job of that. But so Ultimates is cool. It just it's not the same. If I'm going to read the Avengers, it's going to be like the original Avengers, you know, where it's
Right.
still like kooky villains, and you know, watch Wanda and Vision fall in love, you know, which I
Right.
really loved. I mean, that whole story, I had both versions. They're miniseries together, 4-issue miniseries, then the
Yeah.
12-issue series, which culminates like in their marriage, you know. Um, you know, I was just like enamored with the Avengers when I was about 12. That was my favorite Marvel title, you know,
Yeah.
like team title.
Right. Right. Right.
So okay, last recommendation for you. It's a superhero. It's another DC book. I know you're not as much in this DC, but um, in the late 1980s, early 90s, mostly late 80s, there was a Justice League title just called Justice League or Justice League International,
Okay.
and they still had Justice League America, and it was a different a separate Justice League title, and it has Guy Gardner, who was a Green Lantern. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that character's name.
No,
He's
just
like an asshole. Guy Gardner is this kind of redhead character who's got a mo haircut, and he's just like an asshat, and he's like, I'm the fucking Green Lantern. I must be good for something. So fuck you, you know. And then Blue Beetle, which is a character that they DC acquired from a defunct comic book company, a golden age comic book company. They brought in Blue Beetle, who've been around since like the 30s, who's really kind of funny. The same thing with a character named Booster Gold. So they have it's a very character driven comic book. It's not a lot of action, but it's funny.
okay.
Blue Beetle and Guy Gardner, you know, and Booster Gold. Booster Gold is like likes being famous, and he wants to kind of like, I want to make money from myself. Like, look at me, you know. Uh, but it's a really great comic book in that regard, where it's just
Yeah.
kind of character driven, and they use humor quite a lot.
Right.
So it's a nice change of pace from just the whole like, let's go beat up you know, the
Right.
talking rock, and so there's my recommendation. But I know you got a lot on your plate already. But
No, I can definitely like it's things I can keep my eyes peeled for because like when I glaze over with DC stuff and it has to grab me or I have to know it. That's
right,
like how it was with the Creature Commandos. I saw that and I
sure,
was like, this sounds zany as fuck. This
yes,
sounds like a fun time. And turns out it was actually really fucking good too, because
sure.
not everything I've grabbed, even with Marvel, has paid off. Like
Oh yeah, there's a
I
lot of
grab
bad
a
stuff out there.
I grabbed a title, I wanted everything Weird World. So I have the original series, which is I fucking loved, and they never actually finished it. It sort of just fell off. I guess it wasn't popular enough. And then, like I told you, they did a Battle World, Weird World, and the first one's fucking great. And the second one's like, oh man, there's too much modernism in it. The first one's like a bloodbath. It's just crazy, funny, and gory. And I'm like, this is great. The second one was nothing like that. And I was like, it's still Weird World. There's still some fun shit in it. And then there was oh shit, Captain America, and there's some Hulk now that has Wolverine claws. I don't know what he's called.
Okay.
He's like he's like got a different Hulk name, but he's also Hulk. And
Hmm.
they go to Weird World, and I'm like, this is gonna be killer. And no, of course not. There was barely any Weird World in a title that used Weird World in the title. I was like, where's Weird World? There's nothing going on here from any aspect of the previous books. They just threw it on there as an alternate realm they could go to. And it was like, where's all the cool shit that's in Weird World? Nothing. I was pretty bummed out by that one because I paid like, I don't know, I paid more than cover price for it because it was out of print. But yeah, that Hulk's kind of cool. That's
Okay.
cool. You gave him Wolverine claws and adamantium. That's neat.
Hmm.
Captain America's just Captain America,
Yeah.
throwing his shield and being
Right.
Cap. But I was bummed out because, like I said, it was missing Weird World in a title that included Weird World. But yeah, the Weird World series was super fun. If you've not read that, that's like it's a fantasy standalone series. So typical fantasy
Sure.
70s, I think. You're talking Dark Crystal-esque type
Okay.
land and storyscapes and shit like that. So, and it's super fun. The characters are real fun. It had that, like, if you watched the Lord of the Rings cartoon vibe.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So it's kind of got that feel to it. So it's cool storyline, fun fantasy. And like I said, they never completed it. They just stopped writing it.
Mm,
I guess it didn't
that
gain any traction. So
unfortunately that happens quite a lot. A title doesn't do well, or it just stops. And
right,
that's what happened really with like when the first time X-Men were around. It just
right.
didn't do well, and they just couldn't
That's what
keep
happened
it
with Captain Marvel.
going.
Like three, it took Captain Marvel like 3 or 4 tries. It took Jim
Yeah,
Starlin to get Captain Marvel to where they wanted him to
yeah.
be.
I've been reading since I'm reading 1973. I've been reading the original run of Captain Marvel, and some of it was kind of cool. Some of it was really spacey and like fucked up. Um, but it just kind of stopped, and then they had to bring him back like by popular demand. I think with the reinvigorated, the new storyline and
Right,
stuff. But that's it. Just happens. Titles come up and they go away, and you can't keep a good title down forever. Just like
right,
a character's death is never the end.
right.
In a comic book, because eventually they're going to have to bring him back in some way, shape, or form, because they don't want to lose the character.
Yeah, right.
So, yeah. Well, listen, anytime that you want some comics to read, man, don't hesitate. Reach out to me. I'll put a bunch on a drive for you, and that
Yeah,
way,
that's cool.
you can just even just a sampler, like here's 1,000 comic books of different types. Maybe you
Right,
find something you like, and if you do, if something flips your lid, then let me know. Let me,
right, right. That's cool. Yeah, thank you.
yeah. So, all right, man. So this is the end of the road. I guess we should do a final sign off, with you. You know, since
That's okay. Let's just Irish goodbye.
all right, whatever
Just
that is.
that's where like where you don't tell people goodbye. You just leave.
Oh, okay.
You're
All
at a
right, cool.
party and you just leave. And you don't say goodbye. And where's so and so at? No, he Irish goodbye us. I don't know if Irish people really do that, but
I don't know. I guess
also known as ghosting. I don't like that
right.
term as much. Irish
No,
goodbye
ghosting. They
sounds
don't come back with it. Yeah, that's funny. I think someone is ghosting me, but that's okay. I don't care. It's like if I did something, if someone's mad at me, I'd rather have them like just tell me, like, I'm mad at you because you did X, Y, or Z. I'm like, oh, then I can apologize. Well, I didn't know I was doing that. I'm sorry. But um, if that's how they want to deal with it, I'm
yeah.
not gonna lose sleep. I'm like, that's fine. It's just one fewer people, to worry about in my
Right,
life. Like,
right,
I got enough shit on my plate, man. I don't have to worry about it.
right.
So, all right. Well, hey, man, you're always welcome back anytime. If you just want to swing by, maybe, still King Diamond's still coming, supposedly. That's what Nikki says. Whenever he's done with his Merciful Fate tour, but next year, whenever the album comes out, we're still on the
Yeah,
docket. So if that's,
yeah. That would be cool. I definitely would like to do that. Or if
yeah,
you ever actually rope in Jamie, I'd do that one too, just because I know him.
sure.
You know.
Well, I mean, they're going to be busy because they're
Yeah.
playing. I don't know how the fuck did they get opening for Merciful Fate? You
Well, they're a
know,
huge band. That's how
well, I
they
know
got
they're
that.
hot. They're
Uh,
really hot.
and
Yeah.
I know they've shared. I don't know if it's got anything. I think they've played shows with Fate or King Diamond or both.
At the same
Because
festivals, I think, because they were hitting Europe.
they do a lot of the same festivals, and they're a big
Yeah,
name, so their booking agency got them that gig. I
that's good.
mean,
I'm happy for them. I really am
yeah,
happy for them. Like,
that's a huge deal.
yeah, and I saw what Daniel Decay was um interviewing King
Yeah,
for Fate. I'm like, God damn it. Like, that's just so cool. I'm just I'm happy for him,
yeah.
these guys. So yeah, hopefully they'll come back when things, maybe after this tour. I'll reach out to them. Funny thing is, um I've sent out like stickers to a bunch of people. I've never heard once like thank you for the stickers. I'm like, all right. Um, but yeah, and so we have other guests who are coming back. I know Mark Bridie wants to come back on when the new Jag Panzer album is ready.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about that. And there's some other stuff going on with that, which is pretty cool. I don't know how much have you been hearing at all about that
I
at
think
all?
that I think that it was some of it was discussed. Or you told me a little bit about it
Yeah, yeah. Well, they got a
via
comic book that's
messaging.
coming out, which is
Yeah,
pretty cool. He's been sharing a little bit on on his Facebook feeds and stuff, social media. So,
yeah.
which is pretty cool. But yeah, so, but thank you. You brought so many great guests to us. in this past year. It just like an abundance of guests. And so your contribution cannot be overstated. So I just want to thank you for that.
Yeah,
And
not a problem at all. It was
yeah.
fun, like it's just like I said, like, man, when you get a free moment when you've got so much on your plate, it's just like, man, I just want to sit, and I
Mhm.
feel guilty. I'm one of those people that do that. I'm sure there's a title or a name for this, but like when I sit and do nothing, I'm like, man, I really should be doing something right now. Like I feel guilty, just because of how much shit's going on. It's like there's that stack of CDs back there. Those are CDs that I'm trying to sell. So I have to like go through them. I have to condition, check the condition, clean them up if it can be, report to all these people like, hey, the CD's in this shape. This is how much I want for it. And it's like, I just tell those folks, and Joe's one of them. Joe's interested in some of the Nile I have.
Mhm.
And I'm like, it's going to be a few days before I can get to this
Yeah.
because I keep putting stuff off and then I've got to go back and do that. And, like I said, like the debacle where I was trying to upload that song for like an hour, it's like, son of a bitch. Maybe I could have multitasked and done something
Yeah.
else, but I wanted to be present, just in
Sure.
case you can do either or, but
Yeah.
I chose to sit there and watch it and keep an eye on it.
You have to prioritize things that are important. And a lot of things that can wait. Your health and mental
Right.
health. Those are all more important. And
Right.
you need time just to kind of defrag every day. Decompress and get rid
Right.
of stuff. So yeah, so we've become accustomed to being on the go all the time, and then being made to feel guilty, like if we don't have our phones with us, like, oh God, I should be checking into work.
Right.
Even
Right.
taking
Right.
time off. It's like, Europe, has it right. Like, look, August, it's hot. We're just going to take the month off. Everyone goes
Right.
on fucking vacation,
Right. Right. Right.
but
Yeah.
yeah. So don't,
It,
you just take care of yourself. And, and,
it
and
is.
before,
It's
and before Joe buys your CDs, remind him he owes me, because he and Mark both. Mark, listen, motherfuckers. We haven't pitched in for last year's heavy metal horror dues. You got to start pitching in, bitches. So that'll be fun if they get to watch this episode.
if they get to watch it,
If they
they're
watch
not
it.
allowed to. They're not
If they
allowed
out
to
there
watch
watch it,
it.
I don't know if they're going to sit through an hour and a half of comic book talk. We'll see. So, all right, man. Well, you got my number. We'll be in touch.
Yep.
And I
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
knowing what's going on. And if you guys ever start playing out again, of course, let us know.
Yeah,
And if there's
absolutely.
any way that we can support you, in any way, shape, or form, mentioning stuff that goes out, or if you want to, whatever you got, we'll certainly do that. So,
Yeah. Thank you.
yeah, our pleasure. I mean, I like your music, and I'm really excited about the new Volcana. So any news on that? When's
Nothing
that?
yet, just
Okay.
because I mean, I haven't even, there's, again, with me,
I mean, you got the
when I,
new Vindicator album coming out, so for crying out loud.
yeah, we've got a lot of,
Yeah.
right now, Jeff's doing his thing with the Fae. He's been focusing a lot
Yeah.
on that. And I mean, Glenn's pretty readily available. He does some other stuff, but he's really chomping at the bit for it. And I have riffs. I have so many riffs
Well,
because
Jeff's
when I
in like
write,
what, 5 bands or something like that.
yeah,
Yeah, he's busy.
he's in, what is he doing right now? I think he's just
Vindicator,
doing the,
Faye. Is he doing Volcana with you too?
no, he's not in
No.
Vindicator. He does Volcano with me, but I
No,
don't think
I was
he's
thinking of the Vindicator, your other guitarist. I was getting him wrong.
Billy. Yeah,
Billy,
Billy's in a
Billy.
lot of bands.
Yeah.
I think Jeff, though, Jeff has been in several bands and does several things, but I think he's just focusing on the Fae right now, and he's really focusing on it. So
Okay.
but I mean, that's not why we haven't done anything. I just haven't sat down and written anything yet, like,
Mhm.
or taken riffs and worked on stuff. So it's on the docket. I don't know exactly when it's going to happen because next year's a pretty big Vindicator year. So
All right.
what with some of the stuff we're doing. So
Well, maybe
it's
we'll
just,
have you back on for another interview. So
yeah, let me know.
we'll see if your schedule allows it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, hey, good luck on writing the new music, and like that guy you've been watching, his videos on YouTube, the shredder.
Yeah.
Take that to heart. He's really fast.
Yeah. He's so fast.
All right, man. Well, I'm gonna take off and get some lunch,
All right,
and
man.
I'll see you around.
All right. Take care.
All right, man. Bye.
Later.
Oh yeah, we can't say bye.